Post-round is presented by the TP5 and TP5X golf balls from TaylorMade. Joe Musso pleased to be alongside Shane Bacon. And Shane, that was a day. I want to take you back to the rain delay and something you said specifically. I think we have that.
And I think about the break, Joe, and I think about J.J. Spaun. I mean, got off to a really dreadful start today. J.J. Spaun is a guy that has found a lot of fairways this week. I think J.J. Spaun is one of those players that could have used the delay to reset. Let's try to kind of find what I did the first 3 days and lean into that as he gets, into that back nine. I think he's got an opportunity maybe to shoot one under on that back nine. Everybody's kind of coming back right now. For somebody like J.J. Spaun, I think this break was extremely helpful.
Back to the here and now, and we like to tally our wins. Shane Bacon, what about that break was so pivotal for J.J. Spaun, and what did you see out of it that has crowned him our United States Open champion?
I saw a lot of what we've seen from J.J. Spaun this season, and a lot of what we saw the first 3 days around this golf course. I mean, Oakmont is one of the toughest tests in all of golf, and J.J. Spaun had been one of the best ball strikers, if not the best ball striker, those first 3 days. I mean, he comes out of the gate on Sunday, makes bogey at the first, and then gets this awful break at the second. You remember the ball from 93 yards hits the flagstick, comes all the way off the green, and then the fives just kind of continued. And that's something that happens around Oakmont. It's a golf course that can do that to you. And you look at the start there from J.J. Spaun, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And you kind of feel like I've lost the U.S. Open. He had 10 fives the first 3 rounds.
It's a 5-5-5 deal.
He made 5 fives to begin. But I just felt like J.J. Spaun, I mean, your brain kind of can go to mush at Oakmont even if you're playing well. And I just felt like he could go back, reset, and get back to the way he's been playing all season long. And you and I were joking a little bit about it earlier. I mean, he's a playoff away from having a Players and a U.S. Open title this season. Now you're talking about J.J. Spaun in the Player of the Year conversation. Sure, the resume doesn't look like a Scotty Scheffler's. It doesn't look like a Bryson DeChambeau's. But J.J. Spaun this season, I'd say, has been the 3rd best golfer on the PGA Tour, now has the biggest win of his career.
5 fives to start. 3 threes to finish, surging home with 64 feet and a moment here to cap off this U.S. Open. You see that putt fall, and my mind starts going to emotion. We had that euphoric release of Rory at the Masters. We had emphasis from Scotty adding to his legacy. What's the emotion you attach to that moment?
I think it's relief. I think I'm a guy that has considered quitting the game. I think I'm a journeyman player that has played on the Gateway Tour and has played on many tours that most people watching have never heard of. I'm somebody that goes to random driving ranges in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I like to be around everyday people that are working on their games as well. And I finally found something that's working, to my favor. And I mean, this is a guy that walked onto his college golf team. This isn't Jordan Spieth getting an offer when he's 14 and 15 years old. This isn't Scotty Scheffler, a layup, low amateur player when he's a teenager and shooting around as a teenager at Oakmont back in 2016. J.J. Spaun is one of those players, kind of an old school professional golfer. These players used to pop up more often than they do now. And it's so fun when you get to see a player like this. Brooks Koepka was a little like this. You think about some of the great players of our generation. Brooks Koepka was not the layup great player. Zach Johnson, one of these players as well. Not to say J.J. Spaun's going to go on and win multiple majors, but the fact that you can still do this in professional golf reminds us of how special the sport is, and it's not just about the top 10 best players in the game.
And it's often a U.S. Open canvas that reminds us of these things. We've become spoiled in our engagement with legacy. That's sort of what the majors have meant here in recent past. I don't mean that to say it out of the side of my mouth towards J.J. Spaun and what this means to his legacy and his career, but there are instances where we have one-off major champions. You add this to the resume of J.J. Spaun, and it does what?
I think it just says if you want to keep grinding at it in terms of being a pro golfer, you have opportunity. I think it's a reminder to all the players on the Korn Ferry Tour right now, the mini tours, that there is still opportunity in this game for you. We've taken cuts away in professional golf, something that I don't love. And we've leaned so heavily into the superstars, which happens in all of sports, right? I mean, LeBron's a superstar. Steph Curry is a superstar. Aaron Judge is a superstar. I understand why they get the endorsement deals. But in golf, forever, the heartbeat of golf was players like J.J. Spaun, where every now and again you might pick up a victory, and every now and again you might beat the best players in the world, and every now and again you might create a highlight that's now going to be a part of the U.S. Open for its history. You're going to remember that putt at 18 at Oakmont for the rest of this championship and beyond, because it's one of the best putts we've ever seen. Longest putt made of the week by anybody in the field is the last putt that matters, and to do it in that way, you and I are sitting there going, he could 3-putt. We could have a playoff on Monday. And I will say this, and we talked a little bit about this, but the fact that Victor Hovland playing alongside J.J. Spaun, hitting that second shot behind J.J. Spaun.
Nice
If
little
you're a
teach.
pro golfer, that is a dream situation for you, knowing you're going to get to watch line and speed on undulated greens that are as tough as they are in the world to read, and the fact that there's this much saturation on the greens, extremely unpredictable. And the fact that you got to watch not just a putt from Victor Hovland, but a good putt, J.J. Spaun probably owes a Venmo or two to Mr. Hovland maybe on Monday morning.
Plenty of that with the check that comes with a U.S. Open title, but certainly it is about that trophy and about that title that he gets to carry with him now as a U.S. Open champion. J.J. Spaun earns this moment. You said it, 64 feet, 5 inches, 2 putts from there in the pouring rain, hard enough. He does it in one and offers a moment here into the cannon. We just saw something on our screens that J.J. Spaun joins a pretty rarefied list of U.S. Open champions at Oakmont. They've done 10 of these there. 8 times we've gotten a first-time champion. What if Oakmont makes it the kingmaker, for lack of a better term?
I think everybody goes into it understanding how tough it's going to be, and I think that does, in fact, level the playing field a bit because you have the superstars going into it. I mean, it seemed like it threw Rory McIlroy right out of his, in his comfortableness right out of the gate. I mean, you think about some of the past great players that haven't quite been able to figure out this golf course. And I think when you win at Oakmont, then all of a sudden you believe in yourself a little bit more. You think about Ernie Els in '94. Ernie Els was a great international young player, but Ernie Els was not who Ernie Els was going to become. You think about Angel Cabrera back in '07 and who he beat coming down the stretch in Tiger Woods. Angel Cabrera, of course, goes on to win a Masters and nearly win 2 of them. I think winning at a golf course like this, you can lean on this when it's hard times and you're not playing well and you're not striking the ball the way you want to be striking it. And you go, hey, man, remember when I played Oakmont? The hardest golf course on the planet, better than anybody else in the field. I beat Scotty Scheffler, and I beat Rory McIlroy, and I beat everybody else that was in contention, Adam Scott. I think that says a lot about what you can do, and it can remind you of where you can go.
Forever on the wall at Oakmont, an anchor site for the USGA and for this United States Open. All right, I'm taking the putt off the board, Shane.
Okay.
And I'm making you situate this championship in your mental Rolodex right now. How do you do that? This Sunday was so individual. I'm also bringing in these other 3 days. How are you going to remember Oakmont 2025?
I think I'll remember the Sunday. I think I'm going to remember the kind of start and stop nature of the golf tournament. I think I'm going to remember Rory, honestly, a little bit from, this U.S. Open in particular, just how strange it was really from start to finish. And I think I'm going to remember having absolutely no idea with about 4 holes to play who is going to win this U.S. Open. I mean, I think I wrote on Twitter, we were patting myself on the back for the J.J. Spaun call. I think I called 4 or 5 victories for, Bobby Mack, and I said Tyrrell Hatton's going to win this thing, and Adam Scott was going to be victorious, and of course ended up being J.J. Spaun. But it was one of the most unique final rounds, not just because of the weather, but the fact that it just seemed like it was anybody's ball game. And you and I said it. We talked about it twice today already. We said it's going to come down to 17.
Yeah.
This golf course always comes down to 17. And it's standing on that tee, can you hit the shot or can you not? And J.J. Spaun hit one of the best shots of the week there at 17, makes the birdie, and then we'll always remember what happened at 18.
It's anybody's game until it's somebody's trophy, and that trophy belongs to J.J. Spaun, your United States Open champion in 2025. Shane, thank you. A look here at the longest pre-tournament odds by a United States Open winner. J.J. Spaun, 150 to 1, the longest since 2009. When Lucas Glover had his moment at Bethpage, Wyndham Clark just a couple of years ago, a long shot at LACC. But this one goes into the canon as unlikely. J.J. Spaun, a winner at Oakmont. There are many routes to major distinction for J.J. Spaun. It's sprinting in the rain. 4 birdies in his last 7 holes and a 64-foot masterpiece at the last. Spaun, your United States Open champion. Post Round is presented by the TP5 and TP5X golf balls from TaylorMade. Joe Musso and Shane Bacon in studio. Patrick McDonald joining the conversation from Oakmont. Patrick, we will start as we often do. What a week. Fantastic stuff here and quite an end scene there for Spaun. I was going to ask you a myriad of questions about how this day played out, but that final moment deserves a bit of exploration here. What was your point of view and how did the crowd take it in at Oakmont?
He walked off the 17th tee, and we got a feeling that J.J. Spaun was their man. He grabs the lead of this golf tournament. He was not the man at the beginning of the day. In fact, he was probably low on the totem pole when you think about Adam Scott. You think about Victor Hovland, a very popular player. But the crowd got a sense that J.J. Spaun is going to be the American who could win this tournament. for them. And so he splits the fairway, he finds the green, he has Victor Hovland read the putt for him pretty much, and it was just an absolute arena around, cameramen just running around. And once he made the putt, it went absolutely berserk. I let out a yelp. I know you're technically not supposed to from the press box, but I let out a whoa, and people were just jumping up and down. It was really a great end to what was a gritty day and a gritty performance throughout the 72 holes from J.J. Spaun.
I mean, lest we forget, our lead was 4 to start the day. Sam Burns and Adam Scott in that final pairing. We will go there in a bit here, 17 over in total for that final pairing. Spaun's moment will live forever in U.S. Open lore. This was a Sunday that did take on many different paces, and you have been our conduit to the tournament and to the USGA throughout this week. Did you see any issue or feel any issue from the grounds that this was being contested in the sort of weather that it was post-stoppage?
It felt dicey there when the final group was on the 11th green, I would want to say, and they were kind of ping-ponging back and forth. But my takeaway from the week is the toughest guy won. And J.J. Spaun, he might have not known that he was the toughest guy coming into the week. He said he had zero expectations, just being his second U.S. Open. But you look back at his career and you see that this guy was built to handle the toughness that is a U.S. Open, being misdiagnosed with type 2 diabetes and having unexplained weight loss late in the 2010s. He loses his tour status for a little bit. He plays on the Outlaw Tour during COVID-19. I know that's out there in Scottsdale where Shane spends some times. I mean, this guy has gone really through everything. And then you factor in that he slept on the lead on Thursday. He was in the mix on Friday. He was in the final group on Saturday, the penultimate group on Sunday. 72 holes of major championship golf takes a lot out of you. 72 holes of major championship golf while in contention takes pretty much everything out of you. And J.J. Spaun was in it throughout. Everyone got bad breaks this week. I know Sam Burns, he wanted to drop there on number 15, led to a double bogey, pretty much ended his championship. But J.J. Spaun got his fair share of bad breaks as well. He did not slump his shoulders. He kept his head up, and he kept marching on and into the winner's circle.
By the way, I played Outlaw Tour a couple times before. Maybe a Christmas event that you have to dress up in a Santa outfit. Did not win the tournament, by the way, in case you're wondering, Patrick. Patrick, we talked a little bit about this. We talked a little bit about this during the rain delay, how important it might be to certain players, and we kind of focused on J.J. Spaun. How big was the reset when you think about J.J. Spaun getting an opportunity to kind of go back in, settle down, take an hour or so away from the golf course and get back out there? How big do you feel like the break was for Spaun to go out and do what he did on that second 9?
I think it played a massive role, Shane, because like you mentioned, he got off to about as poor of a start as you could in a final round of a U.S. Open in contention. Just an absolute brutal break there on number 2. He had another bad break there on number 4 with his feet in the bunker, his ball in the rough. Did well to make a par there. A string of 5 straight pars to start your final round. That is certainly not what you want to do. But we saw guys on the range really rushing a little bit. Victor Hovland stepped onto the range late. His caddy left his caddy bib in player dining. They were looking around for it. Not really the warm-up you want coming back out of it. But J.J. Spaun just looked cool, calm, and collected, and looked like a guy who knew that he still had 10 holes left in this championship and that anything could happen. And as we saw, a lot did happen down the stretch of this U.S. Open championship. And it felt like Spaun was the most even-keeled down the stretch and even-keeled coming out of that break with a really good warm-up on the range as well.
He now owns Oakmont, or a piece of it at least, will be a part of that history forever. And I don't want to say this was worst-case scenario for Oakmont, but there's no other governing body like the USGA that has a responsibility to producing a score the way that the U.S. Open does. I mean, eat your heart out. The under par crew with that putt at the last does get us to red numbers, Patrick. But how did you measure Oakmont over this week and all that was thrown at Oakmont and what it threw back at these players?
I thought it was a fair test until maybe at some points today with the rain. And I think we saw it with Sam Burns. I thought the ruling was an incorrect one. Our friend Kyle Porter tweeted it out. He was the one following that final group. He should have gotten relief for casual water, and that could have had an outcome on this championship. But like I mentioned, every single player dealt with good breaks and every single player dealt with bad breaks. And it was about how you handled that adversity. And to me personally, that is what a U.S. Open is all about, a classic U.S. Open where you're going to get bad breaks, you're going to get good breaks, and it's how you come through on the other end. So I thought Oakmont presented itself very well throughout the course of the 72 holes. Maybe a little dicey there, middle stretch of this back nine to end this championship, which is unfortunate given that's when the height of the action tends to be. That's when a championship tends to remove himself from the pack. But overall, I thought it was a great host course and one that rewarded good shots very often throughout the week.
Joe, I got to give Patrick some flowers as well. Said one player before the week would finish under par, and that'd be the champion. So, Patrick, way to go on that once more. We were sitting here, Patrick, watching this unfold. You know, the last, let's call it, 7 or 8 holes after the weather delay. No idea who was going to win, obviously. I mean, it was about 10, 12, 15 names. Felt like Scotty might win at one point. Maybe John Rahm was going to have to turn around in the airplane. Who do you feel like is going to walk away from this week the most disappointed they were unable to kind of walk away with this championship?
I think it has to be Sam Burns, honestly. This is a guy who had the lead after the birdie on number 10. It looked like he was well on his way. He was at 2 under with 8 holes to play. You step onto 11, talking about bad breaks. He finds himself in another fairway divot, makes a double bogey, makes a mess out of it, unfortunately. He gets to 12, doesn't take advantage of that hole. 13, a nice up and down. Or 12, he actually bogeyed. He had a really poor wedge shot left. I forgot about that. Hit a nasty chip, Shane. Just disgusting to even get it within 7 feet. Missed that putt. And it felt like when he made that birdie on 10, this was Sam Burns' championship to win. And then the unfortunate incident happened there on 15, and it took the entire wind out of his sails. It really put an end to his championship hopes. So I think Burns is the guy. You have to remember, he was in the mix at the Open as well last year at Royal Troon, shot a final round 80 in that penultimate group, another final round that he would like back. And so Burns, a guy who, as we talked about last night, is surrounded by greatness, next to greatness when he plays his practice rounds and hangs out and goes back to the rental house with Scotty Scheffler. It felt like this was his championship with 8 holes to play, and unfortunately it didn't shake out that way.
Golf, a great game of perspective, because I'd love a 78 on Monday. Patrick McDonald, it's a week well done from Oakmont. We appreciate you, pal. And don't forget, TP5 and TP5X golf balls. You can switch to them in 2025 and switch your whole game up. Experience elite level speed and distance off the tee with the TP5X. Premium greenside spin and control with the TP5. Scan that QR code to learn more about both the TP5 and TP5X from TaylorMade. Our conversation continues next on CBS Sports HQ, where JJ Spaun is the winner, but we'll take you down the leaderboard and some of the what if that exists. The beauty of the US Open is it's the only golf tournament where you're going to have dentists and high school kids, USAM champions, and the best in the world all playing the same golf course. JJ Spaun is proof that all you need is a chance. 150 times they had to play it for him to win. Well, this was that one time. Post round is presented by the TP5 and TP5X golf balls from TaylorMade. Shane Bacon, Joe Musso here to take you a little further past Spaun. Again, the moment belongs to him, but exploration elsewhere needed. Sam Burns really has to be walking away from this one feeling like it is opportunity squandered. And in this game, at that level, you only get so many opportunities. Burns had 9 bogeys through 54 holes in this tournament. Makes bogey or worse on 8 of his 18 here on Sunday. How do you walk away and reconcile with this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be kicking himself. I mean, I think it was a real opportunity to win this golf tournament. I think he understands how close he came in this championship. And you know, I love when people sit up here at times and go, we'll have a chance. He'll get there again. You know, you might not.
You hope.
When you're not Scotty Scheffler and you're not Rory McIlroy, you might not have many opportunities in your career to win a U.S. Open. And for Burns, you see 40 on the way in. I mean, the ruling on 15 is going to be a big subject that people are going to talk about. And I'll say this, reading his quotes after, he was graceful in the way he kind of handled it. After, I'm sure he's frustrated with it. But he said at the end of the day, it's their ruling, and I've got to go with what they say. But for Sam Burns, I thought after the birdie at 10, it was his. And it felt like it was his. Nobody was really taking control of this U.S. Open. And Burns was sitting there, finding fairways, doing what Sam Burns had done the first couple of rounds. So I think of the players, I agree with what Patrick had said earlier. I think of the players that didn't win this golf tournament, he's going to be the most disappointed.
Yeah, he's going to feel this one for some time. And you know that pain is often shared amongst your closest circle. Scotty Scheffler, a part of that Sam Burns circle. He's got his own pain to reconcile with here as well, because we're looking at a T7 finish, 4 over par. We're sitting there for about 2 hours doing the Scotty math. Like, what's he got to get to be in a playoff? We identified at times that 2 over number. JJ Spaun obviously golfs his ball and makes that a moot point, but if you're trying to find 5 strokes that get you to 1 under, you had 5 misses inside 5 feet this week. I mean, you could do the Scotty math and find a way to win this tournament. How big is the regret or the what if for Scotty?
Well, it goes back to the golf club that had not been there early last year. And you think about 2023 when he was struggling, it's always going to come down to the putter for Scotty Scheffler. And when you go down this leaderboard and we start to get into some of these names, what they struggled with, it's always the part of their game that's their biggest hole. And for Scotty, you mentioned 5 misses inside of 5 feet, 7 3-putts for the week. Now 9 straight rounds at a US Open where Scotty Scheffler has failed to break par. For Scotty, and it's crazy to say this because he's so good everywhere in the world. For Scotty, it seems like when the golf gets very, very tough or very, very unpredictable, I feel like Scotty has struggled to find his way. You see an even par round of golf and you think, that's great. But for Scotty Scheffler, I mean, the 3-putt at 11 was brutal. That was from about 15 feet. He had so many opportunities in there close throughout the week. You think about the 4-putt on Friday at 17 from just off the green. Makes bogey when he pulls off the tee shot on that difficult par 4. If you get to 1 over, J.J. Spaun's got to think about you because you're Scotty Scheffler, and that's somebody you don't want to play in a playoff. And he failed to get there, and it's all going to come down to the putting. For Scotty, it's just figuring out how can I get the ball in the hole inside of 5 feet on the toughest of greens.
Another one of those short misses early in this round turned a bogey into a double bogey and made that chase, that climb even steeper for Scheffler, who's going to contend, as is evidence here by his finish, another top 10 at a major, but not the result that you want when you are world number 1. You talked about the element of chance being injected into this U.S. Open, which is often the case here. Green side, a lot of questions of what golf balls are going to do, and that's just part of winning one of these things. Yesterday, I asked you, if not now, then when, for Viktor Hovland, and you could hawk it up to chance in this instance. But if anyone went out there and it looked like they didn't have their stuff, I'd circle Viktor Hovland. I'd maybe circle Adam Scott on this Sunday. What did you make of Vic's performance? Because there is a growing list of data points Sunday in the mix at a major where he does things like he did today.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of waiting for him to prove it. I mean, I feel like we get in this space a lot with the best players in the world, and I think Viktor Hovland is one of the best golfers in the world. I'm talking top 12, top 15 players in the world. But he had an opportunity, and when you're talking about pedigree atop this leaderboard, Viktor Hovland was the best player left in the field. And I mentioned Scotty Scheffler in the putting, Joe. I mean, Viktor, 1 of 5 scrambling in this final round. You know, I mean, that's the part of the game that Viktor Hovland has continued to struggle with. I mean, he's just got to be better in and around the greens. And today, he couldn't get away with it. He got away with it the first couple of days. We saw him kind of get up and down and hit some great, brilliant chip shots. The one on 17 on Saturday comes to mind. But when he missed greens today, he could not take advantage of even the decent lies he had around these Oakmont greens. And the putter, my goodness, some really, really balky strokes early in that final round from Viktor. Missing wide, not even close, short stroke in it. For Viktor Hovland, I think he's going to go and work for a long, long time on the short game, and not just the chipping, but the putting as well. Because Viktor, he didn't maybe ball strike his way around the golf course today, but it was good enough, I think, to at least be there. 1 birdie through 16 holes, tough for Viktor Hovland.
It's a great point. I hope it doesn't shake the confidence that Viktor has certainly refound over these last couple months, sort of out in the woods searching for it, literal and figurative at times. Hovland back on form, but again, not who he has to be on a Sunday at a major just yet.
And let me say one thing about Viktor Hovland, and I will say this as a takeaway. I mean, Viktor Hovland has popped a couple times at majors. I mean, without his best stuff. I mean, you think about the PGA Championship last year, out of absolutely nowhere. And Viktor has obviously played better this season, but to show signs at these biggest events where I am still a really good player. And I can still play no matter what the golf course asks or the golf course presents. You got to go 20 under. You got to shoot around even par. I think for Viktor Hovland, if he wants to take a positive away from this week, this was not the PGA Championship last year, and I had a chance at the hardest golf course in the world. I've just got to tighten a couple things up.
3 top 3 finishes at majors. We now have 4 top 5 finishes at majors for Viktor Hovland. Still no hardware to show for it. You know, we often say it's only a matter of time, but time is ticking. Viktor Hovland doesn't get it done here. J.J. Spaun, again, your winner at the U.S. Open. And with those wins come the spoils.
Whoa.
North of $4 million to the U.S. Open champion in J.J. Spaun, who had that runner-up finish. And I hear they pay pretty good at the Players' Championship for second place as well. Just a Rory McIlroy lipped-in putt to force that playoff away from having 1.5, if you count the Players as half. Big trophies well within the grasp of J.J. Spaun, and he finally takes one home. More to come here on CBS Sports HQ. We haven't said his name yet. If you say it 3 times, he appears. Rory, Rory, Rory. Thoughts next on HQ. It was a tale of 2 nines on Sunday for your U.S. Open champion J.J. Spaun. Out in 40, home in 32. Plenty enough to claim his first major championship. Now distinguished with that U.S. Open title, J.J. Spaun forever a part of history at Oakmont. Back in studio, Joe Musso alongside Shane Bacon, here to delve even deeper. We have some names that always need a question or two, but I want to start with Oakmont because we heard from the grounds Patrick's summation of it all and what sort of test it put in front of these players. Was this, I know the word doesn't come about in U.S. Opens, but was this a fair test in your eyes of the best golfers in the world?
I think it was fair until the back nine on Sunday. I don't love that much saturation on the fairways. I mean, you saw Scottie Scheffler struggle with it. You saw obviously Sam Burns struggle with it. It's a little bit of a guessing game on a golf course that already makes the players kind of start to guess when they start the week on Thursday. I mean, you hit the shot off the tee, and then all of a sudden you got to deal with what I felt like was standing water for Sam Burns at 15. That seemed to derail his opportunity to win the championship. I think Oakmont is an interesting test. I think it's the toughest test that we see in U.S. Opens. Mm-hmm. Is it my favorite style of U.S. Open golf? No, it's not. I mean, I'd rather see a Pinehurst. I'd rather see this is going to sound crazy, I'd rather see a Chambers Bay. I like that level of golf in terms of kind of the ball rolling on the ground, and I think typically you get that at Oakmont when the weather is the way it's been, this spring. But it's just not. It's not the one I look at and say this is number one on my list. It's kind of up there with Wing Foot, where I know it's old school and the rough's gnarly and thick and you got to find fairways, and that's not what modern golf asks. I do wonder if you went back to somebody like Rory McIlroy and said, take driver out of the bag, hit 3-wood all week, what do you shoot? Can you shoot 1 under? And what they'd be able to do, but that's just not how guys think anymore. I'd say overall, though, J.J. Spaun was maybe the most sound mentally of the week. Yeah. And I think that when you ask the USGA what they want to see, that's what they want to see in a champion, somebody that doesn't let a golf course kind of disrupt the mind even more than the golf swing. Ball on the ground is the good stuff. Maybe we get more of that next year at Shinnecock as we take out to Long Island here for the U.S. Open. So many great sites, and Oakmont identified as one of the anchor sites now. We'll be back there in 2033, and we'll see what sort of test it presents once again. But in your words here, this was trying to identify the best golfer in this field, and I don't know if we did that specifically. We identified the golfer that answered the question best in this week, and that was certainly J.J. Spaun. I feel you wanting to go there. You've alluded to the name once or twice here, and always storylines surrounding Rory McIlroy, so let's go there. Had some interesting things to say to the media. Or not said anything to the media, exactly. And on his way out the door, he spoke once again about motivation, and that's where I want to go. This is a man who has accomplished it all, and it really feels like there is no longer a carrot dangling. Identify that carrot for Rory because there is plenty of summer left and a team that needs him, again, on Long Island for Bethpage Ryder Cup. I think about Rory winning the Masters and being in this place mentally without what's upcoming kind of on the schedule. If you think about it as an Open Championship in England or not a Ryder Cup year, I mean, I could see Rory maybe not even playing the Open Championship. But the fact that it's at Portrush, I think, in theory, would get him excited. I think the fact that a Ryder Cup's upcoming, an event he has called the best in golf and the thing I like playing in the most, will inevitably get him excited. I hope we get to that place with Rory McIlroy. He's not there right now. I wrote this earlier in the week about Rory and what happens after you win as a golfer. You don't get to celebrate. You don't get the parade. You don't get all the fanfare that comes if you win an NBA championship or you win Wimbledon. The tournaments end and you get a couple of weeks off. In golf, you're right back at it. And especially when you win the first major of the year. You're right back to the PGA at a place he's expected to win at. And the questions went after the win for Rory. It wasn't congrats on the Grand Slam. It went, how many can you win this season? And I feel like if you really dove into it with Rory, maybe it's the driver testing that frustrated him. But I do wonder if those questions got him a little annoyed as well. The fact that us in the media, as he said, went straight to what's next versus what you just accomplished. Because I'm not sure how many modern Grand Slams we're going to see. I know we got players on the list that could, in theory, accomplish it. It's going to be very tough, and it's going to be tougher and tougher as we get deeper into this. Jordan Spieth hadn't been close to winning a PGA in a long time, really. You think about it since 2015. Phil Mickelson, I don't think he's winning a U.S. Open, right? Scottie Scheffler, in theory, is on that list, but he hadn't played great at U.S. Opens. Even with the finish this week, 9 straight rounds, not finishing under par, and he has not played well at the Open Championship. I wonder if Rory looks at us and says, why weren't you happier for me? Maybe that's not our job. Our job is to kind of look ahead. But I do think, considering what's upcoming for Rory, motivation has to be there because he's going to want to go home and play well, and he's going to want to be the best player on that Ryder Cup team for Europe.
Yeah, it's a great point. That Masters celebration wasn't muted in any way, but it did feel quick because that was the guy we were looking to do exactly what he did. Now, what are you going to do next is a tough question there. We fell just short of ticker tape parade, and I would have been there if there were one in celebration of that Masters, but an unhappiness that pervades the play right now.
And I think, Joe, the fact that it was Quail Hollow next, I think hurt a little bit in terms of what we talked about with Rory McIlroy. You look at that golf course, the very next major championship, and we were all going, this is his best golf course.
Yeah.
This is the place he should win. If he didn't win Augusta, he's going to win at Quail Hollow. And then he just comes out flat and never has his best stuff, and the whole driver thing happens. And now Rory is as frustrated as I have ever seen him in the years covering that guy.
I will say this, T19, 7 over, temperament being worth a couple strokes, could have been one of those names we were considering here on Sunday at Oakmont. As we move forward, we try and paint the picture of what we might see at our majors to come, and we only have one more this season, but a major player has reemerged in the eyes of many and on the scorecard as well. Jon Rahm played good golf again this week, had a couple moments where Friday, Saturday, it could have been better and kept him in the conversation, but a T7 here, previous, the PGA a T8, and the Masters a T14. This was a man who was lacking form, seems to have refound it. Where have you seen the change?
It seems like it's with the iron play. Iron play, incredible this week. I like the scrambling as well. Always been one of the best scramblers in professional golf. And I'd say I'd also go back to that motivation. I think Jon Rahm goes to live, and he kind of disappears in a way to a lot of people in terms of viewership and eyeballs. And he comes out in the 4 events that we will watch him play, and he kind of lays an egg. And you're sitting there going, wait, is Jon Rahm just not going to be the guy we expected him to be this season? He's been that guy. He's been close. You mentioned the finish at the PGA Championship, probably better than that. I mean, he went for some flags late trying to catch Scotty there at Quail Hollow. I look at Jon Rahm as a real factor at this Open Championship. I just feel like he's the type of player that's going to inevitably win an Open Championship, considering the game and the scrambling. I think he's one of those guys that probably likes it when it gets a little tough and muddy and windy. The fact that he can kind of flight balls and the pitching and the chipping is so good. I think Jon Rahm is going to look at all these things as steps toward that next major win. And I look at Portrush and go, why not Jon Rahm there?
Harder for us to keep tabs and for him to keep form where he's currently playing golf, but he does seem to be one of those characters where it's just better when he's around, maybe elevating himself to what Bryson DeChambeau has been able to do in the absence of those competitive reps. Jon Rahm back in some ways. We'll see if he plays a main character there at Portrush. Let's go to Portrush. I want to pick your brain on a couple names that make sense there. I think we've alluded to a couple of them already, but we're going McIlroy, Scheffler, Spaun, and one open seat this major season. Who might sit in it?
Give me Bobby Mack, man.
Okay.
Give me Bobby Mack coming off a second-place finish here. He finished T6th at the Portrush Open in 2019. Played great. Tyrrell Hatton, who played great this week, top 10 as well, T6 there. I feel like it's going to be a European-heavy leaderboard considering the golf course. For whatever reason, I feel like that golf course tends to lend itself to that style of player. So I'm probably going to lean heavily on the Europeans. It kind of felt like that this season outside of Scotty Scheffler. And I'd probably go, as we said, Jon Rahm. I just feel like Jon Rahm has positioned himself to finally get that claret jug. I like the golf course for him. I like the fit. I think he hopes it blows. I think he hopes it's close to even par.
Shane Bacon, fantastic stuff all weekend long here on CBS Sports HQ. We certainly appreciate your insight.
Always a good time with you, my man.
We appreciate you guys tuning into HQ Post Round, and let's do the Rory thing. On to the next one. Look at your odds to win the Open Championship. Scotty Scheffler, your favorite, despite his struggles with Open Championship golf. But anytime they're playing a golf tournament and the world #1 is in it, he will be addressed with such odds. Close to 5-1 money. Rory McIlroy, a home game, but don't say it too loud, 6.5-1, and there's Rombo. 10-1, your third favorite to win the Open.